I guess we're all set, Jason.
Okay, Fred. Fred, I wonder if you could make me a co-host.
Can. I got a few more people to let into.
Yep.
Co-host, where's Jason? I guess we're all set, Jason.
Okay, Fred. Fred, I wonder if you could make me a co-host.
Can. I got a few more people to let into.
Yep.
Co-host, where's Jason? I guess we're all set, Jason.
Okay, Fred. Fred, I wonder if you could make me a co-host.
Can. I got a few more people to let into.
Wait.
I think we have a problem.
I think somebody's audio needs to be muted and may need to use a headphone or a headset rather than, I think the sound that's coming out one is being fed back in through the microphone.
How's that? Is that better, Jason?
That sounds better. I think we'll wait a moment to see if we get any feedback again. I understand Anthony, I think, is in the waiting room.
Yep. And how's that? Is that better, Jason? Nope.
That sounds better. I think we'll wait a moment to see if we get any feedback
hang on
again. I understand Anthony, I think, is in the waiting room.
Yep.
Hi there, can you hear me?
And how's that? Is that better, Jason?
Nope. That sounds better. I think we'll wait a moment to see if we get any feedback again. I understand Anthony, I think, is in the waiting room.
Yep.
Hi there, can you hear me?
And how's that? Is that better, Jason?
Nope. That sounds better. I think we'll wait a moment to see if we get any feedback again. I understand Anthony, I think, is in the waiting room.
Yep.
I assume nobody on the call also has the YouTube stream active somehow, somewhere.
No, I think it's.
For anyone watching the YouTube stream, we're having some technical difficulties here. We're trying to get that straightened out before we begin this meeting with the Groundwater Advisory Committee.
Okay. Engineering. Yeah. Hello?
Hey, Jason.
How about that, Jason? And we lose the echo now. I think I got it now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, I was muted myself.
Yep. I think I didn't have my YouTube video muted. I think it's set now. Just give it a minute.
Okay. I think we might be good.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Paula Devereaux, Rick and Patty Gates, Vito. Vito. The guy, okay, so Paul, are you there?
I am.
Okay, I just got a call from, I'm sorry, Jason, 1 second. I got a call from
Yep.
Dario's assistant, Greg, and they were having trouble. We sent them the link. I don't see them on the list. No.
Fred, if you like, I can start up call the meeting to order and go through the preliminary script.
All right, I'm going to mute myself and give Dario a phone call.
I'm
Okay,
just,
very good.
Fred, I'm emailing him now.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Fred. I just talked to them. They're logging in again.
okay.
Oh, okay,
All right.
good.
I'm sorry, Jason, please go ahead.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Good evening. Finally starting. My name is Jason Perot, chairing the Groundwater Advisory Committee for Northborough, and I call to order this October 20th, 2021 meeting. This open meeting of the Groundwater Advisory Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Groundwater Advisory Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Groundwater Advisory Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link posted on our agenda, or you can go to the town website homepage, click the Remote Meetings button, and that should take you there as well. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public participation. I'd like to now confirm the presence and audibility of the members of the committee. Members, when I call your name, please unmute yourself and respond in the affirmative. I am Jason Perot, representative for the Board of Selectmen. Anthony Zeiton.
Here.
Anthony's with the Planning Board. Teresa Capabianco.
Present.
Teresa's Board of Health. We have Bryant Furman, Water and Sewer Commissioner.
Present.
And we have Diane Goldner from the Conservation Committee. Diane, could you unmute and acknowledge, please?
Sorry, I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you, Diane.
Mhm.
Additionally, I'd like to note the staff member helping run our meeting tonight, Fred Litchfield, town
Here.
engineer.
Here,
We also have services of Melanie Rich with the planning department. And with that, I think we can continue. Ground rules for the meeting. As chair, I'll invite each applicant on the agenda to make their presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others, please request to do so through the chair. And each vote taken by the committee this evening will be conducted by roll call vote. That concludes that aspect of it, and we can now proceed with the agenda. The first item on the agenda is to consider the continued petition of RJ Devereaux Corporation for a variance for an industrial use on the property located at 200 Bartlett Street, map 66, parcel 7, in the industrial zoning district and groundwater overlay district areas 1 and 3. I'd like to, yes, if we could, do we have all the participants for this one in the room here? We have Paula Devereaux. Let me just go and ask, and I'll just note for the record, all participants are meeting or participating remotely. Paula, why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, and then introduce the other members for the applicant.
Okay, my name is Paula Devereaux. I'm a partner at Pierce Outwood in Boston, and I am representing the Robert J. Devereaux Corp. In this petition. And with me is Rick Gates, from the project manager from RJ Devereaux. Vito Colonna, our site engineer, and Dario Damari and Greg Kisco, who are the architects for this project. We will last before you on September 14th, 2021, and we went before the Northborough ZBA on September 28th, 2021. At the ZBA hearing, the ZBA voted to continue this hearing until next Tuesday, because one of the things that the ZBA was concerned about was the list of chemicals and also the method of storage of the chemicals. So we have provided to the town engineer, and hopefully he's provided it to you, the list of chemicals in a floor plan that shows the approximate location of how they are going to be stored. There are also photos of the storage cabinets that are going to be used. And so now we're here before you to go over that with the hopes that you will provide a favorable recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. I would just like to note for the clarification of everyone involved, this Groundwater Advisory Committee is exactly that, an advisory committee. We're not a permit granting authority. We don't issue approvals for anything. Our recommendation will go to the permit granting authority, and based on that recommendation and other aspects of the bylaw that they might consider, they will make their decision whether to approve or not. The focus of this committee tends to be on the technical aspects relating to groundwater protection, and perhaps not to some of the broader aspects of the bylaw that might come into play for the application. So there may be other aspects of the bylaw that the permit granting authority will take into consideration in formulating their decision. So with that clarification, I would invite you to, I guess, make your presentation for the clarifications relating to the hazardous materials and other mitigation factors that would be put into play. Fred, do you have something?
I do. I have one person in the waiting room with a phone number that ends in 400. Paul, if that's somebody with your group, let me know and I'll bring them in. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume they're for the next meeting.
Oh, it might be Joel Quick. So,
Do you know if Joel's phone number ends in 400?
no, unfortunately, I don't know his number off the top of my head.
Joel, if you can hear this, can you just hit the raise your hand button and I'll bring you in?
That would be a *9, I believe, on your phone.
Thank you, Jason.
Mhm. I'm not seeing an indication.
And this is being live streamed on YouTube, so he may be watching it on that.
Okay. If he wants to participate, we need to make sure that that's him, and then I can bring him in.
Okay.
Okay. Why don't we proceed then, Paula, or whoever the representative that wants to make the presentation?
Sure. So we were before you in, as I said, in September, because RJ Devereaux Corp has a purchase and sale agreement and seeks to purchase this property to use it for a contractor's yard. We were before the Groundwater Advisory Committee and then went to the Zoning Board of Appeals in late September. The Zoning Board of Appeals had reviewed the recommendation letter, or the advisory letter, I should say, that the Groundwater Advisory Committee through the town engineer provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the ZBA felt uncomfortable voting on this variance application unless and until the chemicals could be, the gallonage could be agreed to or understood, I think. And they wanted more information about the exact chemicals. So since that meeting, we have provided to Fred Litchfield, the town engineer, a list of the chemicals, depictions of how the containers that they'll be stored in, as well as a floor plan of the maintenance building that these chemicals will be stored in. And I don't know, Fred, if you've had a chance to review, I saw your letter that you provided to the committee members, and I'm not sure whether or not you want to go into that in any detail.
Sure, Paula, thank you. I did review the list of chemicals, and in the letter that I sent to the Groundwater Advisory Committee, I noted the list of chemicals. They had received that list along with the MSDS sheets, all the information that Dario Design submitted to us, and a copy of the plan. I did reference that plan date of September 13th in my letter. I did receive a revised floor plan for the maintenance building late this afternoon, and perhaps Dario could explain changes that he made to it since then, and then maybe put it up on the screen so we can talk about it. But pretty much the letter quantifies the chemicals listed on your sheet. It was 758 gallons. It did indicate that the storage containment that was proposed was adequate. And there's a list of comments that I had regarding floor drains and some other stuff that we had talked about at the last meeting. It's just kind of formalized again in a letter to the Groundwater Committee to make sure they're okay with all of those. And if so, then we could forward a letter of recommendation if the committee feels comfortable onto the ZBA again. I believe that it does address the outstanding issues that were talked about at the ZBA. The Groundwater Committee did leave it a little bit open-ended. They were comfortable that all that information would be provided, but it has since last month been provided, and I believe it is quantified, and it's not a burdensome amount that can't be handled between either the cabinets that are proposed or the floor drains and the tight tank that will be required in the site plan.
Thank you, Fred. I just want to ask, I don't think that I am in receipt of the detailed list of chemicals. Was that sent to the members of the committee?
I believe that I did send it to the committee, but I can jump offline and try to send it again if you don't have it. I see some other members nodding their head, so I can't say.
If
You
I
all
may,
got
it
it.
was October 18th.
Yes, it was. I believe it was attached to the email that came with the letter. There was a copy, the electronic copy of the plan. I didn't have them printed at the time that we sent the packages out, so I sent electronic copy of the list of chemicals. I believe the MSDS sheets were not on there, but the list of chemicals was, and the pictures of the containment that's being proposed was, I believe, also part of that. I think it was 4-page attachment, and then there was a separate page of the floor plan, similar to the one that's in front of you, but dated September 13th. It wasn't in the paper package.
Okay. I'm hearing a lot of background noise here. Let me.
Would you like me to send it again, Jason?
If you could send the list of chemicals to me, that's just an email attachment?
Yep, I can send it. I'll just send it right now. Just give me.
Fred, this is Brian. I didn't receive it either.
You didn't get it as part of the attachment with the letter?
No.
I believe it was part of the, that's all. I'll send it to all of you.
Okay.
Give me one
Thank you.
second to exit full screen and get to my email.
We have this.
Did everybody see the floor plan yet or no?
Yes, I can see the floor plan. Thank
Want to
you.
make sure. Okay.
Yep.
I'll wait till we're ready to go.
Yeah, thanks. I apologize for the delay here.
No problem. No problem.
If I could just check with the committee members, Anthony, you do have a list of the chemicals?
I do.
Okay, and Teresa, you do?
Yes, I do.
And Diane,
Yes.
okay,
I just sent it again to all of you. I sent the floor plan that came today, the MSDS sheet, I mean, the material list without the MSDS sheets. And again, the review memo. So you have all three of those in an email
Yep.
any second now.
yes, thank you, I have it.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Not sure what
Yep.
happened.
No, it's okay. Okay, with that in hand, do we want to just proceed first with the diagram here and kind of go through the layout in the maintenance building?
All right, we'll start on that. So we did send a list of all the chemicals, all the quantities of all the chemicals, and the list also shows which type of container they're being stored in. And you'll see on the right here of this drawing, the quantity of the chemicals, and then the fact that we're going to be having more storage capacity than required just to be safe. So we'll start off, north is up on the plan. So this is Bartlett Street. Can you see the cursor?
Yes.
Okay, so basically the northern part, just going to be a couple offices and a lunchroom, some bathrooms, and a mechanical room and an entrance. We actually have guardrails here, kind of above and beyond for safety in case someone's walking out of an office with a cell phone. We just don't want them to get hit by anything. So we're a little bit beyond OSHA, but that's the way Devereaux wants to operate. There's a drive that enters from the eastern part of the site through the building. And that's where the trucks would come in with the trailers on them to get serviced. The trailer portion on the western side of the building, we have the two service bays. And that's basically where a truck would come in to get its oil changed or any type of minor service. They're not servicing engines or transmissions or anything here. What we've done is on that chemical list that we sent you, we put letters on the cabinets that they would be stored in. So if you see the letter A, then you'll see this is cabinet A. And in this case, they're just big, tall tanks. If you see, so each one of those will have a letter, then you can look on the plan to coordinate with the letters. And I guess I'll just start walking you through from basically A to F or to E. And here is just a cage and a container for oxygen and argon. And we drew, we're going a little above and beyond to show the safety thing, but those are stored here. And the code says it has to be 25 feet minimum from the acetylene, because it's like oil and vinegar not wanting to mix. And the acetylene's over here. So this circle is the 25-foot circle minimum, and we're 60 feet from it. So we're twice the code requirement, just as far as spacing of those two products. Down here, the same type of container for the acetylene and the propane. Container B is a flammable cabinet for storing flammables. There's one on this side where they'll be servicing the smaller equipment, and another one here for servicing the vehicles. And we'll go to the notes on the right and walk through those. I'm just gonna, oh wait, yeah, I'll get rid of that. So on the right, because some of these notes will apply directly to this. Notes 1 through 5 are, we put that on the most recent drawings because they directly address the letter that we got this morning from Fred. So, and it was all in agreement, but we figured we'll put them on the drawings, make it official, and I'll go through those notes and then relate these notes back to the containers. But as a fundamental concept, the first note's important. The total volume of the chemicals proposed to be stored on the site is 758 gallons. That's max. And then you can see the reference list for all of those. So that's the quantity. The second note is probably the most important note. All floors of the building are sloped to the drains for the hazardous waste containment, and the drains go to tight tanks. The tight tanks are designed to hold all the chemicals and a sprinkler discharge as per the fire department with respect to time. We haven't got that time yet, but whenever that's in, that'll tell us how big the final tanks have to be. There was a question about electric and cooling and heating. All the buildings are going to be heated with natural gas. That was a question that had come up. Another one that we had talked about, but we're just putting in writing to make sure everybody's on the same page, is all the paved areas on the site are going to be burned to capture any runoff, and that prevents any, just a normal, oil that you would have on the street from getting into any of the protected areas. So they all get into catch basins, and you have separators, and that's all, everything's contained on the site, not just the building. So there's a little bit of belt and suspenders there as far as conservation is concerned. The construction materials that are stored outside will be covered at all times. So that's note 5. And these, we just put them number to number corresponding with Fred's letter. So number 6, which will take us back to where we were here when we talk about a flammable material or chemical. The flammables are all stored in code compliant flammable storage cabinets. The amount of flammables that we have is 32 gallons total. The amount of flammable storage cabinet space is 2 cabinets times 60 gallons, which is 120 gallons. So we're erring on the side of safe, even though the containment in the floors will capture all this. These cabinets also are sealed. So if there is an event or a problem, they're sealed, and we've got way more capacity to store if there is a spill, then the amount of chemicals within the cabinet. So that was erring on the side of safety, just giving us that much extra capacity in the event of a spill within a cabinet, because the floor is designed to hold it up beyond that. And then the same thing with the non-flammables. There's 22 total gallons of non-flammables chemicals stored in these cabinets, and yet we have the capacity, we have 2 cabinets with a total capacity of 60 gallons each, totaling out 120 gallons of spill containment for 22 gallons of material max in those cabinets. And then you can see the non-flammables are here, cabinet C and cabinet C. So what's going on basically is A, B, and C are servicing the trucks. And then you've got the B and C here servicing the smaller single piston pieces of equipment. And then here is the actual oil drums. We've got 6 55-gallon drums, and they have their local spill containment with the containers that they're stored on, in addition, again, to the floor having a capacity to store it all if the containers weren't there. So it's another belt and suspenders beyond what the floor capacity can hold. And here's the parts washer, and that's just container H. And I think that's everything here. Oh, we've got nitrogen here, which is again in tanks, which are stored vertically. We have a wash bay where a truck could come in and get washed. And one of the things we had actually thought about was from this line down, sloping everything in this direction, because we don't have anything north of the drive aisle with contaminants in it at this point. So that's pretty much the storage of containers. We've got a cage here where they store parts, 2 work areas. They would receive parts here at their dock just to service this, a little staging area, and some more racks for storage. So that's pretty much the plan. It's very simple. The vehicles can drive through. There's 2 bays for service for the trucks. We actually, which is an improvement on the site, this whole wall is solid now. So the covered materials outside are actually able to slide more behind the building. Not that you would have been able to see them anyway because of the plantings, but it's just, it's a nicer, safer way of handling all that. And that's pretty much it with respect to everything that was asked for. What you'll see is we have the capacity to store much beyond what we're actually keeping in the building. It's just kind of a belt and suspenders approach.
Great, thank you, Dario. I'd just like to pause for a moment here and ask committee members if they have any questions about this floor plan. Anthony?
So Dario, you just, at the very last part of your statement here, your presentation, you talked about that wall being a full wall and then material being stored. It sounded, you said outside?
Yes.
It's going to be covered? Okay. Can you just re-explain what's on the outside being stored again?
Well, that was the gravel. We have rocks and sand. And I'm sorry.
Was that the spoils that we talked about before?
Rocks, sand, spoils, yes.
Okay. I did some research on spoils, and it's not uncommon for spoils to be contaminated. And I'm just wondering if that's something that could be taken off site.
Well, I can explain how that works. There's probably spoils with some operations that are contaminated. The process here is pretty cut and dry for 2 reasons. What Devereaux does legally and what the union requirements have on them. So when they're out on a site, if they hit any contaminants, and there's always a person watching them dig, not just for looking at them, they actually smell them, see them, everything. The minute they hit a contaminant, they stop work and another company comes in and removes it all because they're not allowed to touch it legally, nor with their labor contracts. So they can't bring back contaminated soil because they're not allowed to touch them by law and their regulations. So pretty comfortable with the fact that if they do that, they're they have no way of no recourse with paying for people. And I forget, Rick could speak to it, but they end up paying pretty severe fines. So they just stop the minute they see anything when they're digging, and they do not bring them back.
Okay. And they will be covered?
Yes. Yeah, that's why we put that down here under covered canopy. We put that in writing so that was very clear.
Okay. Okay, that was my only question. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I can't see all of the committee members because of the display here, so I'm just going to go and pull them in order. Teresa, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Bryant, any questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Very good. And Diane, how about you? I need you to unmute, Diane. Diane, can you hear me? You need to unmute, please.
Sorry about that. I have no questions.
Okay, very good. I don't have any additional questions. I appreciate the walkthrough here of the layout and everything. Is there any additional information you'd like to present?
No, I don't think so, unless Paula has anything. It's pretty cut and dry now. Hopefully it's everything you asked for. Quantities, how they're stored, where they're stored, and the fact that I think we've done with I'll call it belt and suspenders, because in fact, the spores themselves contain everything. So we've got a lot of extra stuff there, and hopefully, people appreciate that.
I just wanted to add that at the last meeting, and this came up before the Zoning Board of Appeals too, there's another building on this site that's going to be an administrative building, and there will be no chemicals stored in that building. So this is the sum total of what you're going to see in the entire site for Devereaux.
And it's in the overlay 3 part of the site. The groundwater 3, I'm sorry, there's nothing stored in the groundwater 1.
I will say we can't speak to Lammy Automotive, that's already had approvals here, but this is for the Devereaux use only.
Right, understood. Okay, I think this is the update pursuant to our prior presentation and review. Anything else? Fred, do you want to walk through the letter and provide that information?
Yes, actually, I had a quick question for Dario, and then I'd be happy to walk through the letter, because those are comments that, if the committee's okay and wants to recommend approval, they would all be incorporated into a memo to the ZBA on your behalf. So first, my question for Dario was, he showed the line along the drive-through bay near the open workspace and indicated that that part of the floor may not slope towards the drain because there's no chemicals in there. I assume that if that area has sprinklers, we have to make sure that if there's any chance that sprinkler water can mix with the sprinkler water on the other side of that line, and be mixed with the chemicals that it would need to get to the tight tank. So just want to make sure that either if it's not sprinkled, that's fine. If it is sprinkled, then it needs to be able to get to the floor drain, wherever those floor drains may be. I assume they're somewhere near the drive-through bay and the wash bay.
That's correct, Fred.
So when the building comes in, you'll have to show the sprinkler heads, and then
Yes.
I don't know if there's a wall there or not, but if there is, then the sprinkler water has to get into those drains somehow. So you'll need to work that out. So And again, the volume on the tight tank will be dependent upon the time frame that the fire department feels is adequate to respond.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm happy to go through the letter. One by one. I reviewed the list of chemicals, the MSDS sheets, and the floor plan that was dated the 13th, which is basically the same as this. I believe Dario added a few comments on there on the notes to reflect some of the notes in the letter. So it's again, as Dario said, belts and suspenders. The total volume of chemicals proposed to be stored on site is now 758 gallons, which should be the limit allowed in any recommendation to the ZBA. The materials list of chemicals, proposed floor plan, and the containment areas should all be referenced in the recommendation to the ZBA. The second comment is the proposed maintenance building shall be equipped with floor drains connected to a tight tank size to accommodate chemicals stored within the building, as well as sprinkler water discharge during a catastrophic event for a period to be determined by the fire chief. Each of the proposed buildings shall be heated with natural gas. The entire site shall be regraded and repaved to include a berm around the entire limit of the paved surfaces to allow the drainage system to capture all runoff. The site plan shall include a drainage system design, which shall be in conformance with all federal, state, and local stormwater regulations. We do have a newly adopted local stormwater bylaw that you will fall under when the time comes. I also wanted to point out to Vito, I know we haven't really heard from him tonight yet, but I wanted to point out to him that I'm hoping that there's a way for him to regrade that area between the administrative building and Lamey's Automotive to include that in the resurfacing so that perhaps there can be a low spot in between there. I know the grade's a little tricky, but I'd like to get some of the water away from Lamey's building into a low spot that then can go into the drainage system because the site falls away from the back of Lamey's building. And since it's all part of the same site, be all part of the same drainage system, I want to make sure that that gets adhered to as much as possible.
Okay.
Thank you. The construction materials stored on site shall be permanently covered. That would be the spoils and the rock and sand that Dario was explaining in response to Anthony's question. Looking for like a roof over there, just in case there is anything that one can't wash into the recharge area and mess with the drainage system, and two, in the event that there was some salt on that sand or any minor contaminants, or I don't know if any of those spoil piles include ground up asphalt or chunks of asphalt, and that does carry some hydrocarbons that we would be concerned about. And having the roof over that permanently prevents that from mixing with the drainage as well. The other thing, the number 6 on my memo talks about the applicant shall submit a status report from a licensed site professional regarding the environmental compliance of any and all previous contamination on the site prior to the issuance of a building permit. So if in fact they get the variance and then they go ahead with their site plan and they're ready to start at the time that before they can get their building permit, we'd like to see a status report from that LSP. I believe everything has been taken care of, but I would like to get a status report from a qualified expert on that, verifying that. I don't have anything in writing that's saying that the DEP is satisfied or that there's nothing outstanding. I know that Paul has done the same research that we've done. But if an LSP who's in charge of it could summarize it all for us for a letter for the file, that would be awesome.
Yeah, we're prepared to do that.
And then number 7 is the applicant shall submit the following items with the site plan application. These are 3 of the 5 items. The other 2 are already addressed in the information that they've submitted, the list of chemicals and the MSDS sheets. But the other 3 items that are not part of what was submitted is evidence of approval by the Mass DEP of any industrial waste treatment or disposal system or any wastewater treatment system of over 15,000 gallons a day. I don't believe that's going to be applicable, and that they can certainly just submit a letter from Vito that the septic loading is less than that, and that they're well under, there's no industrial discharge because there's a tight tank and everything else is contained within site, and there's nothing hazardous about it. The other is the underground storage of toxic or hazardous materials, evidence of qualified professional supervision or system design and installation. Again, my understanding is there's no underground storage, none is going to be provided, none is proposed, and a statement indicating that, or if there is, then we have another discussion later on. But I don't recall them saying anything about any underground storage, so I don't believe it'll be part of the application going forward. And then the last is an analysis by a technically qualified expert certifying that the water quality and supply of the underlying groundwater resources will not be degraded to the point whereby a hazard to public or ecological damage results. Now that could be a result, combination of a letter accompanying Vito's drainage design and some certification from the LSP that we're not making anything any worse. And then number 7, I have 2 number 7s, I apologize. The second number 7 says the applicant's site plan shall confirm that the increase in post-development net runoff volume shall not exceed existing conditions by more than 15%. The impervious of the building lot is increased over existing conditions by no more than 40%, or the lot coverage does not exceed the amount of lot coverage permitted in the underlying zoning where the proponent can demonstrate and certify, except to the extent of naturally occurring pH and different temperature components of surface water quality and groundwater quality standards, that runoff waters leaving the developed site via the surface flow will not cause a violation of Class B water quality standards 314 CMR 4, and runoff waters leaving the site via groundwater recharge will not cause a violation of Class 1 groundwater quality standards, and any on-site sewage disposal will be less than or equal to 220 gallons per day per 10,000 square feet of lot area, and any water supply developed on site shall not diminish the total yield of any town of Northborough water supply. That's straight out of the special permits requirements for a project like this in this groundwater area. The applicant site plan is number 8, which will ultimately become number 9 on my letter. The applicant site plan shall confirm that there shall be no on-site disposal of any waste or processed materials, no outside storage of toxic or hazardous materials, have controlled drainage facilities in areas of potential spillage or release, adequate contingency plans in case of spillage or release, and approved routing of suppliers and haulers of any toxic or hazardous materials to and from the site. The proponent for a building or occupancy permit must demonstrate on an annual basis to the building department and Board of Health that all applicable federal, state, and town of Northborough licenses, permits, and standards for the hauling, use, storage, and disposal of any regulated materials have been obtained or met. The reason that those last few comments are in there, and they're taken straight from the zoning bylaw, the groundwater overlay special permit criteria, is if this variance is granted, they will not be required to return to the groundwater committee. If you were to recommend the approval of the variance request, these conditions would satisfy any requirement that they would have had they not gotten a variance, had they just been in a groundwater 3 area and needed to apply for a special permit. So they would have all the criteria a special permit requires added to their site plan, and it will be reviewed as a site plan only. It will not come back here looking for a special permit. Speaking with town council, the town planner and I have agreed that an applicant who receives a variance can't be required to come back and get a special permit under the same portion of the bylaw that they receive a variance from. That's why it's a little bit wordy. It's very much taken word for word, a couple of those conditions out of the bylaw, so that it's clear what they have to do going forward should they get the variance.
Very good, Fred. Thank you very much. Members of the committee, I'll take you in order of polling. Actually, If there are no questions about the diagram here, Dario, could you stop the sharing?
Can I ask a question? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
Um,
sure.
So one of the questions I have is this diagram is pretty specific. And as a lawyer, I sometimes in zoning things don't always like things all that specific because what if something changes in the interior of the building? I understand that all the containment has to be there, but if there's changes in, minimal changes in locations of the cabinets, is that something that has to come back to anybody? Or is that something that can just be dealt with by the building inspector on in the building permit application?
Fred, I would defer to your judgment, but my feeling is probably that if any changes materially preserve the handling of the hazardous chemicals, according to the parameters we've seen exhibited in this diagram, I imagine that would not be a concern.
Well, the intention of my letter and the request of the information that they've supplied was to primarily quantify. So you have that number, 758 gallons. Any change to that number would require a return trip to the ZBA because they'll be the ones ultimately granting the variance if they choose to. The types of containment, the containment within the building, there is some flexibility as to where it goes within the building, as long as it meets the building code. I don't have a problem with it. And as long as the floor is sloped to a drainage system that goes to a tight tank and everything that is spilled inside is captured along with any sprinkler water. The goal of my letter was not to restrict them to that actual floor plan identical to that, but more to quantify that there would be containment cabinets, that there would be a certain list of chemicals, and they're all accommodated in the various types of cabinets located throughout the building. Where they are doesn't matter to me as long as it's all captured. And if that letter needs to clarify that, or if it says that, if you're all comfortable with the way it's worded, that was the intention. If you need it to change, I'm happy to change it. But my goal would not be to have them come back unless they, one, didn't supply all the cabinets to capture to hold the chemicals, or two, wanted to change the volume of material over the 758. The rest of the stuff is just kind of direction for them to proceed with the site plan with criteria as to how to develop the site through the site plan process. But those items in the letter are, I think, appropriate to be added to the variance if it were to be granted by the ZBA. So.
Okay, thank you, Fred. And
thank you.
Any required conditions or required constraints that would need to be met would be part of the building inspection and occupancy approval, or?
Yes, I believe that the fire department will also have a say on things like what Dario talked about, spatial distances between oil and water being stored and how that's done. They have fire regulations as to how close some of those things can be, and that will override the site plan and the building code to make sure that the fire code is met. So.
Okay. So applicant's point is acknowledged. The diagram presented is not precisely the diagram necessarily. There's some flexibility to make adjustments to that while still satisfying the requirements.
And if the applicant's uncomfortable with the way the letter is worded, or the committee's uncomfortable, now is the time to make a change, and then we could send it off to the ZBA, and they will have the opportunity to discuss the wording with the ZBA at their meeting next week.
I guess I do not have any specific concerns myself. I'd like to go to the committee members again in turn, because I can't see if people are raising their hands. Anthony, do you have any questions or concerns?
No more. Thank you.
Okay, Teresa, any questions or concerns?
No, thank you.
Bryant, any questions or concerns?
No, it looks complete. Thank you.
And Diane, any questions or concerns?
None on my part.
Very good. Any final points or information from the applicant?
No, I'm fine with, I don't know if we could use the word approximate plan, or I don't know, the schematic plan, or somehow identify that, Fred, so that when it gets to, and I can discuss this with the zoning board of appeals, but I just want to make sure that when I do discuss it with the zoning board of appeals, that the intent not to be exact with the floor plan is acknowledged at the ZBA, I think is more my issue. Because I do think that as we go through this process, the fire department may want some changes. The building inspector may want some changes. And so that's my concern.
Got it.
But based on what people have said, I'm fine.
Okay,
The letter will reference the plan, title, and date that Dario gave it. I'll be at the meeting to explain, as I did tonight, that the plan is just a pictorial indication of the fact that everything has a containment. Approximately where it is within the building is shown on the plan, but it's not cast in stone, if you will.
And we're fine with not going over, and we understand that if we did go over, the gallonage would have to come back, or if we didn't have containment, would definitely have to come back, and we wouldn't get a building permit, I don't think. So, so we're fine with that. Thank you.
You won't get site plan approval.
Yeah.
yes. If there's nothing more, then I would ask the committee if someone would like to make a motion, and I'll supply some phrasing, a motion to the effect that that the Groundwater Advisory Committee recommends to the Special Permit Granting Authority that if the application is approved, said approval will be subject to the following conditions, and then conditions as noted in Fred's letter. Do I have a motion to that effect, or a revised phrasing of the motion?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Teresa Capabianco, second by Diane Goldner. Any further discussion? Seeing none and hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Anthony Zeiton,
Yes.
Teresa Capabianco,
Yes.
Bryant Furman. Need to unmute Bryant. Bryant, you need to unmute. Not sure what's happening there. Let me go
I'm
to
here.
Diane.
I'm here. I got,
There you are.
Microsoft's playing games with me.
Very
Yes.
It's a yes for Bryant Furman and Diane Goldner.
Yes.
And I, Jason Perot, also vote yes. So the recommendation to the Special Permit Granting Authority is carries unanimously by the committee. So we
Great, thank you very much.
Get that delivered. Wish you well on your next phase of review and approval.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
The next item on our agenda is to consider the petition of Matthew Latore for a special permit with site plan approval, special permit groundwater protection overlay district for operation of a nail school at 300 West Main Street, building C3, first floor, map 81, parcel 11, located in the Business West zoning district, and groundwater protection overlay district areas 2 and 3. Fred, do we have,
I just brought in Cynthia Gleason
yeah,
and George Connors, and I don't know of anyone else that needs to attend on their behalf. If there is someone, there's no one else in the waiting room, so I'm assuming that's everyone that's coming.
I'd like Vito to attend. He'll put up the diagrams.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I just, yes, I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. I read the next one that was on our agenda, which I think is the applicant has withdrawn, or,
You're correct.
okay. So the one I just referred to is not before us tonight, which brings us to the next item, to consider the petition of Opportunities LLC for a special permit to extend use by 50 feet into a more restricted zone at 40 and 44 Lawrence Street, map 105, parcels 3 and 4, located in residential C zoning district and groundwater protection overlay district areas 2 and 3. Applicant is Opportunities LLC and the representative is George Connors. So, yes, George, if you could just introduce the people who are with you for the presentation this evening.
Sure. My name is George Connors. I'm an attorney. I'm also an engineer at Cornerstone. Vito Colon is an engineer at Cornerstone. He's worked on the project, and he will be able to put up the diagrams. And I believe Ms. Gleason is with us tonight, although I don't think she's going to talk.
Okay, very good. If you would like to proceed.
Okay, Vito, could you put up the diagram, please?
Sure. Here we go. Okay.
Okay, so we have a piece of property that was divided into 2 lots many years ago. You see one in the lower part and the one in the upper part. Those areas are roughly 0.63 acres in the lower and 0.5 acres on the upper in the Residence C zone, which requires 20,000 square feet. Both of them meet the requirement. The present situation is a house on the lower lot, the larger lot, and a septic system that was in the very back that is old, and you can see that clouded area kind of across. Yeah, that one there. That is apparently the old septic system. The site contained a house and a garage beside it, and a driveway that came in somewhat over the lot to the upper side of the plan, or the north side of the plan. We have the groundwater 2 zone that runs, groundwater 2-3 divide that runs through the houses. I think you can see that dashed line running through the houses. And of course, the second house on the top is proposed. Groundwater zone regulations allow for moving the use 50 feet into the more restrictive, which is to the west on this particular site. I'll note before I go much further that the groundwater 3 zone is just a little bit to the east of Lawrence Street. So you're all of a sudden out of groundwater protection zone, just across Lawrence Street, which is a business zone. The proposal is to restore the septic system with an upgraded system that meets Title V. And the presumptions are that a septic system under Title V is deemed not to have any impacts to the groundwater system. And then to build a house on the second lot under the 20,000 square foot provision, moving some of the house into the groundwater, more restrictive groundwater zone. The area 3 provides for residential development of a single family dwelling, such that the increase in post-development net runoff volume is not exceeded more than 15%. There are calculations for both of these lots that show that we do not increase the impervious area beyond that. For example, lot 40, lower lot, we have 2,900 square feet where we could have as much as 4,400 documented in the report. And on the upper lot, again, 2,900 square feet, where 3,144 is allowable. Driveway system for the existing condition comes up over the top lot into the bottom lot. And a lot of that material, that pavement will be removed for this. So basically the amount of driveway will probably be about the same for the existing condition. You can see that to the west of the property, in back of the houses, we have dry wells for our roof runoff. And you can see the new septic systems in the front of the property. So as I said, we're replacing one system that would not be in compliance with Title V with the upgraded system for the existing house. And for the proposed new house where there's a garage existing, mostly in that zone, we are replacing it with a house roughly the same square footage impacting that zone, but now with the addition of the 50-foot provision, I think we meet all those regulations. I do understand that we have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals in this particular one. And we did get a letter from from Fred Litchfield late this afternoon. And I had already addressed the use of that residential lot relative to 40,000 square feet versus the 20,000 square feet in section B1, area 3, part 2 residential development is allowed in there on the underlying. If you look through the various sections of the groundwater protection for areas 1 and 2, they delimit areas required to use the lots, but in the area 3, for residential development, you won't find any specific amount of land that's required. So I say that it reverts to the underlying 20,000 square feet. Furthermore, if you look at another section in that C section, 7, it talks about 20,000 square, 220 gallons per 10,000 square feet. And if you apply that on these two, that 4 bedroom houses are allowable. So having said all that, and rather quickly, I'm happy to respond to any questions and comments.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. Fred, do you want to just go over the letter and just put that information in mind for us?
Sure. I agree with most of what Mr. Connor said. The impervious cover does seem to be appropriate. The ground residential C does require 20,000 square feet. I just differ on my opinion that the portion of the lot that is located within the groundwater area 2 can't be used to satisfy that 20,000 in the groundwater 3 area. The use could be extended and therefore the house could be in there, but I don't believe that you can get a building permit for a lot that doesn't contain the entire 20,000 square feet outside the groundwater 2 line. And I believe that staff has been consistent with their recommendation to the ZBA on that point in previous cases. I think that a new septic system is an improvement to the groundwater in this area. I believe that this property can support 1 new house with a new septic system, not 2.
May I respond?
Yes.
As I stated clearly that there is no restriction. You'll find a restriction for square footage of lots in the 1 and 2 zone, both for single family and commercial as well as industrial. But there is no requirement on square footage for the zone 3 for single family. Duplexes and multifamily, again, and I think it's section 6 or 7 of part C, talk about 220 gallons per 10,000 square feet. That's the only one in that particular district that talks about it relative to residential. Again, I disagree with Mr. Litchfield on that perspective. There is also no definition in that section for groundwater of either area or lot. So I think that we did go to the default position where there is an absence of a specific dimensional area requirement for single family under D1C Part 2. And I would hope the board would do that with that in mind.
Well,
Thank you,
um,
Mr. Connors. Yes,
uh,
Fred?
I am not above admitting that I may be wrong. I don't believe so, but I'm happy to try to obtain opinion from town council between now and the ZBA meeting. I think if Mr. Connors is accurate, it should be reflected by an opinion by town council. I did not have time to get that. Again, I believe you can't use the land area for groundwater 2 to support the overall district, but if that is the case and the use is within the part of the property that the groundwater line is extended into the more restrictive zone as the bylaw allows, then yes, he would be correct. I'm not 100% sure that he is, but I am happy to research that and try to get that answer for the ZBA next week. Other than that, the plan does meet the bylaw. It does show less than a 15% lot coverage. They do show some dry wells that captures the runoff from the roof area, which is always a plus. The septic systems being designed in conformance with the current state sanitary code is a plus. The lot sizes do meet the 20,000 square foot. It's just the use of the land area in the groundwater to satisfy the land area requirement that I would question. And like I said, if the board wants to recommend approval contingent upon the confirmation of that fact, that would be appropriate. Other than that, I don't think we need to argue about it all night. I think it's a clear, I think one way, he thinks another way, and we need a third party to tell us who's right and who's wrong. And it could be him and it could be me. I'm not gonna not betting the
Very good.
house on it.
Okay, what I'll do now is putting aside that consideration for the moment, because I don't think without the benefit of town council, they're going to take a position one way or the other. But I will ask each of the other board members if they have any questions or comments about the proposal. Anthony Zaitin?
I don't, but I would tend to believe that we should probably continue until we have feedback from town council.
Okay, you're saying you would prefer to continue and in order to see an opinion from town council, as opposed to making a recommendation contingent upon verification by town council.
Yeah, and the reason I would take that position is there seems to be a fundamental, I don't say disagreement, but misunderstanding or different understanding of the rules here, and that's why I would like to hold off.
Okay, anything else, Anthony?
No, thank you.
Okay, Teresa Capobianco.
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Okay, Bryant Furman.
I have no questions, and I share Anthony's concern over not having that resolved prior to recommending or not recommending.
Okay, and Diane Goldner.
Likewise, it seems very confusing to follow this. Get it cleared up.
Right. Absent any questions about the technical details, otherwise, I think there's enough sentiment of the committee that they would prefer to see a resolution or at least an opinion from town council about the applicability of the lot requirements as it relates to the groundwater overlay districts before making a recommendation. And I'll just poll the committee members one more time just to confirm that. Anthony, that's your sentiment?
Yes.
Teresa?
I'm fine with that.
Bryant Furman
Yes.
and Diane Goldner.
Yes,
And I will concur with my fellow committee members. I think it is kind of a confusing aspect, and I think we want to have some understanding of what the appropriate approach would be in the opinion of town council and the interpretation of what might be conflicting or inconsistent stipulations in our zoning bylaws. Is there anything else you'd like to offer this evening, Mr. Connors?
No, just when will we get this? We have a zoning hearing, I believe, next week.
Yes.
Meet again?
We normally do not meet more frequently than once a month. So in not coming to a recommendation this evening, that would put us out into mid-November, roughly.
Well, I don't know what I can say other than I have to accept it.
Okay. I just think the circumstance is confusing enough to the committee here. It's not prepared to offer a recommendation, even one that might be contingent upon some stated condition. And Fred, do we vote a continuation? Is that part of our process, or this isn't strictly speaking a hearing?
Well, what you have to do is vote a recommendation to the ZBA that they continue until you can meet again and get confirmation one way or another from town council. I don't believe there's time to meet between now and next week's meeting. With the conflict that we had last week, we already pushed it out a week. Normally, we would try to meet again, you know, in this week. We've already used up that week, so there isn't time between now and next Tuesday to meet. Even if we were to get town council to respond in a few days, which isn't always possible.
Right.
So some kind of a motion that recommends that sends a recommendation to the ZBA that they continue until their next meeting to allow for this information to be obtained.
Okay.
Would be appropriate.
Do I have a motion from a member of the committee?
I move that we encourage is it ZBA? Am I in the right group?
Yes.
Wait
Yes.
until we have a positive picture of what can and cannot be done on these lots.
Based on opinion from town council?
Yes.
Okay.
Will I get that opinion when it's available?
Yes,
Yes.
I assume so.
Thank you.
I'll share it with you.
Thank you.
Do I have a second of the presented motion?
Second.
Moved by Diane Goldner, seconded by Teresa Capabianco. This is a roll call vote. Anthony Zeiton,
Yes.
Teresa Capabianco,
Aye.
Bryant Furman,
Yes.
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
and I, Jason Perot, also vote yes. So the recommendation to ZBA to continue their hearing until this committee's had a chance to review opinion from town council.
And when will that hearing be?
Our next regular scheduled meeting would be, as listed on the agenda, November 9th, if
November
the
9th.
committee is all available. And then the ZBA would be the 2 weeks later on whatever that is, the 23rd.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, unless anyone on the committee know that they have a conflict on November 9th, is that?
As of right now, we have a Board of Health meeting at 6.
At 6.
But I don't know. It's been scheduled with us, but I don't know if there's anything on the agenda except welcoming a new board member. So I don't know that it will go even half an hour.
I can move the meeting to Wednesday, the 10th, or we can go later. I'll confirm that with Kristen tomorrow, the Board of Health agent, and see if she thinks that you'll be done by 6:30 or 7 o'clock, or we can meet on the 10th if that's a doable date for everyone. That would be the Wednesday.
Fine with me.
Why don't you send us an email poll, Fred, and
Okay.
community
All right.
members can respond with their availability and try to get that scheduled within that
Just-
week.
Just so the applicant knows, it'll be later than usual on Tuesday, the 9th, or 6 o'clock on Tuesday, Wednesday, the 10th.
I'm just looking for the date for conflicts.
Okay,
Yep.
it'll be either Tuesday or Wednesday that week, 9th or 10th.
I think Vito can leave now. He can go to bed.
Good night.
That's
Thank
all
you.
good.
Good night, Vito.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Vito.
All right. So,
Okay, yep.
thank you.
All right,
Night.
thank you very much. Good night. Okay, just a couple more items. New business, old business, new business. Review and approve minutes of September 14th, 2021. In my original receipt of the hard copy, I found I only had the odd numbered pages, but Fred has emailed the full set of minutes for that date, and I have no concerns about it, other than there's a couple of misspellings of my last name. So,
Sorry about that. I
no,
didn't catch
not a
it.
problem. It's the story of my life. So, have all the committee members had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
odd number pages.
Do you have any, did you receive the email again, Bryant?
Yes, but I haven't had a chance to look at it. I only had a couple of comments, one of the couple of typos. The only real substantive comment I had was page 3 in the first paragraph. Second line, it says, they were told a second variance would unlikely be granted. It mentions by whom they were told, but I thought we should have it up front. When that first question came up, someone told them that the variance would probably be granted. Later on, it says by the builder and the real estate agent. I just thought it'd be better to identify that early on.
I think it would be helpful to identify that, but I don't believe the applicant was specific about who told them.
Oh, okay, that was my next question, whether
It
they
wasn't
actually
staff.
by whom. Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine, that's it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Diane, did you have any
No.
changes to suggest? In that case, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 14th, 2021 meeting as presented with both its odd and even numbered pages?
So moved.
Moved by Anthony Zeiton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded by Teresa Capabianco. This is a roll call vote. Anthony Zeiton,
Yes.
Teresa Capabianco,
Aye.
Bryant Furman,
Yes,
Diane Goldner,
Yes.
and I, Jason Pro, vote yes, so that carries unanimously. I put the next item on the agenda because it's come up a couple of times. The next item is consideration of phrasing of the committee's recommendations to special permit granting authorities. And I kind of alluded to that earlier when I suggested the phrasing of the motion for our first applicant. Rather than recommending approval, what I'm hearing or what I'm understanding about it is that we want to recommend that if the special permit granting authority does offer approval, that approval be subject to the conditions that we determined. So our recommendation is to attach our conditions to an approval if approval is granted. Is that in the spirit, I think, of what we're trying to provide to the special permit granting authority? Because there may be other factors relating to the approval of the application that are outside of our scope. Any comments?
Jason Bryant.
Yep.
What if the ZBA does not agree with our recommendations?
Well, we're making,
I mean, they
we're
have,
recommending certain conditions be attached to an approval.
Right.
And I think that they
But they
have
don't
some
have to-
latitude as to what conditions they actually want to impose as part of their decision. So I think we've made our recommendation, but if they choose to, incorporate
Correct.
other
Yeah.
conditions or different conditions or modified conditions compared to what we've presented, then I think that's within their authority to do that.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I didn't know if this was
Yeah.
complicating the issue or not.
No, I think just rather than phrasing our recommendation to say recommend approval with conditions, we're just saying we're recommending that if the application is to be approved, the
Okay.
following conditions be incorporated into that.
Okay.
So that's what we're not recommending approval. We're recommending conditions that should be attached to an approval if approval is granted. Does that sound like the right way to present our recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes
I have
from
a
Diane, yes
question.
from Brian. Teresa, yeah.
I have a question though. So if on the September hearing, you recommended that it be denied, that the approval be denied. So on the one hand, you're not taking a position, yes, we recommend approval. You're saying it's up to you. Here's some conditions on, that's the one side. The other side is we're recommending that you deny it. Is that how we want that to go?
I think so. And yeah, I was going to take this up next, right? Because typically, more commonly, we would probably tend to be at some point in the process recommending approval because the applicant is going to understand there are conditions that need to be mitigated,
Right.
Or whatever. We're just identifying what those conditions are, and then the phrasing of how we present those conditions as a recommendation is what's changing in that circumstance. If instead we have an applicant before us and there are aspects of the proposal that we do not think are adequate, and we don't think there are sufficient conditions that can be stated to mitigate that or cure that, then our stance would be to not recommend approval, I think, right?
Right. Okay.
I think those are roughly the two options. We typically recommend conditions to be attached to an approval, and the permit granting authority might deny it for whatever reasons anyway. Or there are aspects relating to groundwater that we don't find satisfactory, and so we do not recommend approval or recommend not approving. So I guess there's a subtlety of phrasing for that as well. So
Okay.
I guess I'm going to jump in if you don't mind.
yes, Fred,
I have
please.
to write the letter.
Yes.
I'm guessing that I think that what you're proposing in the sense when you're recommending, if they're going to approve it, that they also attach the following conditions, that seems appropriate. And then on the converse side, if you're recommending that application not be approved, then perhaps we find a way to work in some reasoning why.
Right. Due
For
to
the
the
following
following
reasons.
considerations or whatever. Yeah, we recommend the application be denied due to the following considerations relating to groundwater, which we feel cannot be adequately addressed.
Protected.
Something.
Actually,
But I agree
what
with you. If we're going to recommend, if we're going to recommend a denial based on groundwater considerations, we want to enumerate exactly what those are, right?
perhaps we even go one step further and go back to the bylaw and the section and recommend that with the following conditions, the groundwater committee feels that the application meets the criteria outlined in the bylaw. There's a three or four criteria, whether it's a special permit or not. We just say that they meet these, provided these conditions are met. It's something to think about.
You're saying the event that we're not recommending approval?
No, I've switched back to the recommending.
Oh, okay. I'm
approval.
sorry. Yes. Yes.
that with these conditions, the project does meet XYZ as outlined in the bylaw. It makes the letter a little bit longer. It's,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
opinion,
but
it's
I think
always been kind of understood that that's what we were saying, but I
Yes.
think in this day and age, a little bit more clarity is not a bad thing.
we want to be a little more precise in what we're saying and what we're not saying.
Yes.
So, yeah. So in the event that we are recommending conditions, subject to an approval, we want to, you're saying we want to identify that those conditions satisfy the aspects of the groundwater bylaw.
Yeah, in the opinion of the advisory committee, yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And then in the event that we recommend denying approval, we would want to augment that recommendation with the specific considerations or circumstances that we feel cannot be adequately addressed to protect groundwater. Is that right?
Right. And in the case that we had last month where it was a variance to a variance that had already been granted, it was kind of difficult to summarize it. It was the committee's feeling was we're sympathetic, but you bought the land, the variance should stand as it is, and the ZBA opted not to have that strict confirmance. So,
okay. Any other suggestions or comments by committee members?
I would only say I agree with both the new recommendations and what Fred had added about adding in the bylaws. It just makes things much more clear.
Okay, great. Teresa, are you satisfied?
Yeah, I think if we're tracking the bylaw language, it's fine.
Okay. Bryant, are you satisfied?
Yes, fine with me.
Okay, and Diane, how about you?
Yes.
Okay. So without actually having a draft of specific phrasing, I think we're on the same page as far as how we want to convey the recommendation and exactly what we are saying and what we're not saying in terms of approval. And we'll figure out some draft language in the meantime. If there's nothing more for that, next meeting date, I guess, as we were talking about earlier, Fred, that would be either November 9th following the Board of Health meeting, depending on the timing, or perhaps trying for Wednesday that week.
yes.
Okay.
Wednesdays have become easier to schedule. Although I had a little hiccup at the beginning of this one, I'm able to host these meetings myself, and the host that we've been using for webinars is unavailable on Wednesday, so that leaves Wednesdays wide open. So scheduling that, I'm sure, can be done on a Wednesday. I like to meet on Tuesday since that is our day, but I don't want to have a meeting that forces Teresa to be in two places at once. So I think we can work around it one way.
Try.
Well, get two monitors, yeah.
Teresa, at the moment, you don't have a sense of how short or how long the Board of Health meeting would be on November 9th.
I don't think that there's anything on the agenda right now, except we finally got our 5th board member for the first time since Jamie Terry put a 5-member board together. So she's going to be introduced. And we usually get a COVID update. I know that actually, now that I think of it, we were going to discuss the numbers in town and determine whether or not we want to reinstitute a mask mandate. So that's on the agenda. I suspect that's probably about a half an hour or so, depending on what those numbers look like. If our numbers look good, then it'll go pretty quickly.
And that's a 6 o'clock time for Board of Health?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you, well, I guess we're trying to set it. Fred, when do you think we need to set a firm date?
I should be able, I'll talk to Kristen tomorrow. And I had talked to Kristen in the past because this conflict comes up.
Sure.
It hardly ever came up before COVID, but now it comes up all the time. And she had indicated that the Board of Health may be willing to meet at 5:30 and that we could maybe then start at 6:30 because most of their meetings don't go more than an hour. Because their COVID concerns are expected to be longer than that, we could either start at 7 on a Tuesday night or just go to 6 o'clock on Wednesday, whichever the committee feels is their preference. And like I said, I'll send you out a little email with a poll and see who wants to do what. with the intention of not excluding anyone, trying to get a unanimous on one of the dates and times.
Okay. Very good. If there's nothing more tonight, then do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Motion to adjourn, moved by Teresa Capobianco, seconded by Diane Goldner. This is a roll call vote. Anthony Zeiton,
Yes.
Teresa Capobianco,
Aye.
Bryant Furman,
Yes.
and Diane Goldner.
yes.
And I, Jason Perot, vote aye. So the meeting is concluded. Thank you all very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Thank you, and
Thank you,
thank you for your
Melanie.
patience early on.
Nope, no
No
problem.
worries.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.